Ladies and gents, welcome back. This morning I've got more information on a story that I reported on last week, a pretty disturbing one, where Canada has been okay with Chinese police running operations within Canada's borders. Now, the original story came from the post-millennial. Trudeau government allows China to open police stations in Canada to monitor Chinese nationals. I'll leave a link to the original video in the description down below. You can go watch that to catch up to speed on what's going on there. But essentially, what happened was there is a report of 110 overseas Chinese transnational policing gone wild. This is the report. Police stations that are propping up all over the world for the Chinese Communist Party to police Chinese nationals globally and intimidate people. Now, we have witness testimony as well as an article from the Countersignal this morning. Chinese dissidents frightened by Ottawa's inaction over Chinese police stations. Chinese dissidents are demanding that the Canadian government immediately take action following news that Xi Jinping's communist regime opened police stations in Canada to do Beijing's dirty work. Now, Canada has always been a bastion for freedom, bringing people on that want to get away from totalitarian dictatorships or horrible places around the world and seek Canada as a refuge and call it their own home. And to see stuff like this going on goes against completely our image of and our pursuit for allowing people to come here and live freely without intimidation, obviously. So during a Tuesday hearing of Canada's People's Republic of Canada People's Republic of China Relationship Committee. Wow, that is a mouthful. It almost sounds like Canada's People's Republic here. It seems like we're going in that direction. MPs were told Ottawa must introduce legislation to list Chinese police acting on Canadian soil as foreign agents. Co-founder and trustee of Hong Kong Watch, Aline Calverley, sorry, that's difficult, said she's frightened because there are Chinese police where she lives in Milton, Ontario. And here's her testimony here, courtesy of the Real Andy Lee Show. Witness testifies on Chinese police stations operating in Canada. We'll have a listen here.
Hearing your perspective on the news that we have heard about the police stations that have opened up, and what you would expect from the Canadian government as a response.
It is very shocking news. Actually, it's quite a few open up in Ontario, and actually one in Markham where I lived. So actually, the Chinese agents been around, but I think openly. So actually, it's Chinese police. It's really the first time we heard, and I think like they openly doing that because there's no legislation. There's nothing to deter them, nothing to punish them. So I think actually Canada should have some new legislation. So because as police from China, they should be agent, they're government official, right? They cannot just open offices in Canada. And they claim that they just help the Chinese citizen to renew their passport. They don't need that because they have their own embassy. Mm-hmm. So they use that to intimidate the Chinese citizen in the past, to scare them to go back to China to face trial and then threaten their family. But now I think with the police station, actually in Markham, actually they can intimidate people like us. I've been living in Canada for many decades. Now I feel frightened. I need to install a camera in my house. So I think Canadian government need to really look into this because they actually Chinese police, so they should be considered as agents. So there should be legislation that they need to inform Canadian government that they are agents.
And I'm very sorry that you feel so threatened.
I don't understand how this is even a controversial issue, why we should be talking about this. This should be just a given that they're agents working, they should be registered as agents, and they should not be allowed to operate on Canadian soil. Here we are. Recent investigation found that at least 3 stations established in Canada, despite claims that officers are positioned to help Chinese citizens file paperwork, and stations have led to internal arrests and forced some to return to their home countries to face prosecution. Calverley claimed that the Chinese police want to act like foreign agents on Canadian soil, so they should be legally treated as such. Canada should have some new legislation because as police from China, they should be considered agents. The government officials, right? They're government officials, right? Calverley said. They cannot just open up offices in Canada. They claim that they just help Chinese citizens to renew their passports, but they don't need that. We have our own embassy, and that's absolutely true. Like this is extrajudicial. There's no reason for that. And here we have a report from National Post. First reading: why Beijing is allegedly opening police stations on Canadian soil. Critics say the vaguely named stations are an extrajudicial way for China to keep tabs on their nationals abroad. Well, I'm sorry, but they're not your nationals. Individuals are individuals, and we have a different concept of this in the free world as opposed to the communist world, where people don't have the right to property ownership, so they don't have a basic right to themselves. That's part of property ownership. The property ownership stems from the right to own oneself. So yeah, they don't believe in this in communist countries, that people are their own individuals. They are the property of the state, where as soon as they cross that border and they come into our country, into Canada, we see them as free individuals. And if they want to escape China, well, we should support them in that. And we should not allow the Chinese government to come in and have a say in what it is they do, or even have the ability to harass them. First reading is, sorry about that. National Post, you really got to reformat your website. It's really difficult to navigate. The People's Republic of China has opened at least 3 police stations in Canadian soil as a part of an alleged attempt by the country's security state to keep an eye on Chinese Canadian diaspora. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that word. These 3 addresses in Toronto are known to be registered as service stations operated by the Fuzhou Public Security Bureau, a police force active in the Chinese metropolis of Fuzhou. The revelations were contained by a newly published report on the Asian human rights group Safeguard Defenders, and that is the report about the 110 different stations being propped up all over the map as of today. And as Canadians, we should not stand for this. I really feel that this is something that we should definitely put our foot down on, this in particular, because this kind of opens the door to a lot of regimes. How do we feel about the Iranian government coming in right now and having police stations to police what it is that we're seeing over there? We have women that are shedding their religious garbs, and they should be able to come here and do that freely. Now, if we had Iranian government officials coming in and policing them and telling them that they had to go back to Iran to face charges, I think there would be a lot of people upset, even in the Trudeau government, because they've been railing against this constantly. So we shouldn't stand for this when it comes to the Chinese government. We shouldn't stand for this when it comes to any other governmental agency trying to operate on our soil. Leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think of this situation. I know where I stand. I'm going to sit pretty firm on that, but let me know what you think of this situation. Maybe you have a different angle, a different approach, maybe a different sort of remark to add to the conversation here. Let's have that conversation in the comment section down below. Anyway, if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, please take this time to consider subscribing. If you've watched a few of these videos, you think this is good, hit that subscribe. Hit the notification bell. It lets you know when I go live. I go live every Friday at 6:30 Pacific time. Check your local listings. I occasionally do impromptu streams if I get a guest come on. So the notification bell definitely helps with that. But other than that, we'll see you in the next one. Keep on trucking.